Good afternoon, Wendy.
Hi, Michelle. How are you? I'm so excited to be here on your podcast today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. I'm so happy that you're here. You are like a sister from another mister. I'm so grateful to have met you.
Me too. I mean, every time I get to meet someone in just organically like this, and they have so many things in common with me, I know that it was meant to be. Throughout my life, I have a lot of things like that happen, and I just embrace them.
So amazing. I was contacted by your partner,
Yes.
right? Initially. And
Yes.
Joel, yes.
Mhm.
And then I learned about your amazing story and I was like, oh my goodness, we have so many similarities with what we've been through in our lives that I had to have you on to talk about this important topic. So thank you for joining me. Before we dive in, we're going to talk today about helping kids of mentally ill parents. It's so near and dear to my heart because I think about the difference that would have made for me as a little girl growing up. So this is such an important topic and I'm grateful for you being here. But before we dive into that, just a little bit about my series. I created Michelle's Conversations That Matter to open up a conversation about mental health, to humanize it, have people either become more educated or inspired by my guests. And what I do professionally is I work with organizations to recenter their employees, teaching resilience and compassion in the workplace. I think that's such an important thing to do right now, especially coming out of COVID with a lot of people struggling with some type of an imbalance. So that's what I do and that's what I'm up to. But for those of you who are watching, thank you for watching today. I love seeing the numbers tick up and have people here with me. I'd love for you, Wendy, just introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are, where you live, and what you do for a living.
My name is Wendy Lynn Decker, and I live near the Jersey Shore. And I'm an adjunct professor at Middlesex College. Recently, I was also the social media coordinator and content writer for Northern Ocean Habitat for Humanity. They restructured after getting a new director, and I don't have that position there anymore, but I really enjoy social media and I enjoy writing content for that, and I'm going to continue to seek employment in that area. But my most important thing right now is working with my students, and I look forward to getting more opportunities to adjunct and work on some of the projects that I'll talk about later.
Amazing. That's so, and Jersey Shore. Wow, I have quite a few friends down the Jersey Shore, so it's nice to, where about in the Jersey Shore?
I'm on the Northern Ocean, like at the end of, I guess, the end of Monmouth, early part of Ocean.
Nice.
It's 15 minutes from my house to the beach, either one, Point Pleasant or Seaside. So
That's
I
awesome.
love it. Yeah, it's
But
really.
I do feel for you guys this time of year because all the webs make their way down, right?
Yeah, well, because of COVID last year, it was very quiet. It was like very strange. It was like the whole summer was as if after the summer. But we work it out. I put my bike on the back of my car a lot, so I'll park really far without worrying about trying to find a place to park and then ride my bike to the beach. So we figure out ways. We know the secrets, little places to park no other people know about. So
That's great. I love it. I love it. So Wendy, you and I have so much in common. Growing up with a mom who is mentally ill, caring for our parent. Tell us what it was like for you growing up with your mom. Tell us a little bit about your mom and have us really understand what that was like for you.
Well, my mom was my father left us when my mother was 21 and she had 3 children. And she really relied upon me to help her. And I was just a kid and I did what I was supposed to do, like any child, whether your parent leaves intentionally or unintentionally. I mean, all families need each other to help out. But also because she was so young, she wanted to go out and live her life. I mean, when you're in your mid-20s, that's kind of normal to go out and have fun. And when I was a young girl and she was finding herself, she would go out to the corner in the morning to the bus stop, and she would basically pick up kids who might be potential babysitters and bring them in our apartment. And they would watch us, and they knew that she was that single mom, young, and they took advantage. And my house became the party house. And I pretty much barricaded my brother and sister and I in a back room and waiting for her to come home, just not being comfortable and being scared. And then one day, one of the young guys there took one of my goldfish and wanted to eat it. I was so mortified that next day when my mother, I faced her and I said, "No more of this. I will babysit my brother and sister." And I was 9, and she accepted my proposal.
Wow.
So at 9, I began being the caretaker for them when my mother was gone on the weekends. And it was really a lonely place to be, but I did it because it was that or the alternative. And I didn't want strangers in my home.
Yeah.
So when she was home, she wasn't really there. She had highs and lows, which I know you're very aware of this. There were so many days where, on TV, I would watch shows and I see when a mom's sleeping on a Saturday morning and you walk over to them and you lift their eye, "Mom, are you in there?" Well, I did that all the time. And I didn't get many responses. So then I would just, make my brother and sister their lunch or breakfast and make sure they had clothes on and we'd get to school. And then there were other times where she was just up all day, all night, talking to anybody who'd listen, and getting involved with guys that were just not healthy relationships. And I would feel this in my stomach, and I would get quite ill because I knew things were going on, but I didn't quite know how to handle it, and there really was no one to tell.
Right.
So it was lonely.
I can't even begin to imagine. So my mom was sick, but I didn't have those experiences. I can only imagine. I mean, talk about a 9-year-old little girl having to grow up really quickly and take on so much responsibility of an adult. Like, do you feel like you even had a childhood?
No, I don't, because actually after I got to about the age of 11 and 12, my mother, I guess somewhere in there, she felt guilt that I was always home watching my brother and sister. So I would beg her to let me be free, let me go out. I want to play with kids. I want to do fun stuff. But that would be sometimes at 8 o'clock at night. And the only kids around were older. So I found myself hanging around with kids much too old for me, doing things that were not appropriate for someone my age, and growing up way, way too fast. And by the time I was 19, my mother had a full out breakdown. And that's when I discovered she didn't just have bipolar, she had schizophrenia.
Wow.
So I went from going to just meeting all the statistics you could imagine a person growing up with a single parent, yet not just a single mentally ill parent, to now becoming like really heavy shoulders, having to go in and out of hospitals, being asked questions and being told things that they were going to do to help my mom. So I just missed it all. And now I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for a future. I wanted to go to school, but I didn't really have any guidance. I just was like a spinning top, landing anywhere and just picking myself up and just keep going at it until finally, I got to leave and have a life, but it was hard.
It's amazing how it teaches you resilience and you didn't even like ask for it, right? Like that's just what you do. You just pick yourself up and you find a way through, even though to most people, they would just be completely like, how did you deal with that? Like you don't even think, you just do, right? You just find a way.
That's funny. You don't think. When I was very young, I would try to get out anytime that I could. And I lived across the street from a church, and the bells rang when it was time to go. And I was pretty young, so I don't remember knowing how to tell time.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew those bells were my time signal. It's to go to church. And my brother or sister watching TV, my mother was sleeping. So it was my time. I couldn't escape at that time. So I used it, and I ran across the street, and I went to church, and I got to go to Sunday school and do arts and crafts with people that were kind, and they knew I was alone. And now, at that point in time, I didn't know what they thought. I just knew they embraced me. And so that was a place I went for safety and to be normal for the moment.
I was just going to ask you, what were your coping mechanisms? And it's so funny. Every minute I talk to you, we have so many incredible parallels, because I found a haven in my youth group, in my Catholic youth group, ironically. But I had other coping mechanisms that maybe were not so healthy. So do you have any that you remember that you gravitated towards, that you are really clear helped you in those moments?
Well, because I suppose the people at the church, mostly ladies, they knew I was alone coming into the Sunday school. And then I remember sitting in church one day and them talking about choir. And I was like all about that. I love to sing. That's one thing I enjoyed. So I showed up at choir practice on Saturday morning, and I was the only child. It was all women, and they welcomed me, and I started to sing. And I've been a singer most of my life. I've sang from everything you could imagine, pretty much, and gotten paid for it throughout my life. And it's something I really love. I haven't done it since COVID, actually, because I was doing it recently in assisted living communities, and I would be their entertainment and singing 60s through current time music. But that was my place to cope. It was I didn't have to think about anything except for the words and the music. And that stayed with me, and that was something that it helped me escape and helped me to find something that was productive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me it was like trying to find ways to occupy and entertain myself when I was alone, because I was a lot of times I was alone, and it's just I was alone and with her, and alone and not with her. You get that, right? So yeah. It's amazing. So when so you wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that for sure. But when I was writing my book, I became incredibly curious about the diagnosis bipolar disorder. So I watched a lot of different documentaries and did some research. And one of the documentaries that I watched was The Secret Life of the Manic Depressant by Richard Fry? I think it was by Richard Fry, or Robert Fry. I can't remember. Ooh. Anyway, but that documentary had Carrie Fisher in it and a few other people candidly talking about their mental illness. And
I think I did see it, but it's a very vague memory, because I remember Carrie Fisher.
Yes. Well, he went into a lot of the descriptive therapies for people with bipolar disorder, and one was shock therapy. And I didn't really know much about shock therapy. I just knew that my mother had been treated with shock therapy when she was severely ill before she came home. And it really shocked her out of her nervousness and anxiety and her illness. And it was powerful. But then I watched the documentary and was like, wow. And it upset me. I got to be honest with you. It upset me because it's a pretty intense therapy, but it's still used to this day. Did your mom ever have to deal with that, or did you know anything about that?
I did. Interestingly, from my perspective, because I was her caretaker, the doctors basically told me that's what they were going to do.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing I had ever heard of was The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Mm-hmm. And that movie with Jack Nicholson sitting there, that's what went through my head. Mm-hmm. And I started to weep. I said to the doctor, why would you do something like this to my mother? Why would you do something? I was just mortified. And he said, well, it's different nowadays. We do it not as intensely, and it's still very effective. And again, I was never asked permission. I was just told this is what we're going to do because it was me who showed up. And when you're a 19-year-old kid, you can only comprehend so much.
Right.
And so I basically accepted it and then went home and got sick to my stomach because I just carried everything in my stomach because I was always a nervous wreck when she was in the hospital because I had to make sure that the bills got paid. I had to make sure that, my brother's sister came home. I had to make sure to sign papers if they got something sent home from school, and I would forge her name because I didn't want anybody to know. So it was all done in secrecy, and her being there, I only told probably a handful of people. And by then my grandparents didn't even live in the state, and I didn't have one family member in this state.
Wow.
And it was all me. And so when she came home, it wasn't just the shock therapy, but she had, every time she went, it was a whole new cocktail of medication. And she would have different side effects from them. And I just felt that each time I didn't know who I was going to get. Just like you didn't know when you were going to open that door, who you were going to get. I didn't know whether I was going to get a mom that was okay now, home now, or tremoring from the medication.
Right.
I just didn't know. And I also didn't know how long it would last before she would go off the deep end again. And police would call me and tell me I had to pick her up wherever they found her. So it was all difficult.
Ugh. Amazing. Wendy, I can't believe what you've gone through. My heart breaks for you. My situation, I feel I was much more supported than you. It seems as though you were really by yourself and really shouldering so much more. My heart goes out to you. Tell us about the book that you wrote, Sweet Tea. And one of the reasons why you wanted to come on and talk about it was you wanted to start talking a little bit more about the backstory of that book. Do you want to sort of give us the front story and then maybe some of the back?
Okay. Well, when I did get married, and I had everything that I prayed for that I know you did too. I had a husband, a home. I had 2 amazing children, and I gave them everything that I always wanted, which mostly was just support and love and cookies when they walked in the door, and everything was great. And when they went to school full time, I sat down at that computer and started writing. And that's the other thing, my coping was to write. I love to sing, read, and write. And I could get lost in all of those and pretend that my life was not there. And I was anywhere I wanted to be, and that was it. But I really felt that I needed to tell the story. But I still was, for so many years, I had kept it a secret because I didn't want people to know, because I already felt that people thought I was different growing up with a single mom who was walking the streets and coming home in the middle of the night. And I lived on a center street of town. And I just felt like I lived in a fishbowl, and it was embarrassing already. And I just wanted to be normal. So I didn't want to tell it the truth, but I did. So I turned it into fiction.
There you go. Okay.
And I created, actually the original title was called Anyway the Wind Blows. And that was such a more appropriate title for the book. But my agent at the time he had good feedback from it. But then he said, you know what, it's been shopped, let it sit for a while or change the title. So I let it sit, and I wrote another book, which, I haven't put that out there yet. And I decided to just change the title and send it to another publisher. And with that new title, which ended up being Sweet Tea, which is kind of, it's very appropriate for the book, because the kids in the book, when mom's manic, they need to make her go to sleep. So they drop Salmonex in her sweet tea.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought Sweet Tea was appropriate. However, there's a million books out there with that name. So it's not easy to find. But also the book, I said it in Georgia, because that's how desperate I was for people not to know it was about me.
Got it.
So I just needed to take it as far away from me as I possibly could. So I turned it into fiction, and I said it in a place I had never been, but I researched like crazy because I had a good friend who had moved to Georgia, and she was telling me all the things, that the stores there, the way they speak. Then I met someone else on a a website that I used to frequent for writers, and she really helped me a lot because she had grown up in Georgia. And then I went there and I finished the last part of the book in a trailer in the backyard of my friend in Georgia at
Nice.
her home. And once I finished it, I felt okay. Like now it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
But people thought it was fiction because it was really a mishmash of truth and fiction. I wanted it to have an ending that would give my mother happiness, even though she's never read the book. So that part was fiction, and I didn't want to tell some of the saddest parts. I wanted it to. I just mixed a lot of ethos, pathos, truth and fiction together. But as time went by, people started asking me, "How did you know these things?" or "Who inspired you?" And then I thought, I'm okay now. I'm going to let people know that this is real, and a major part of this story is from real, true events.
Yeah.
And I think that it's time for me to reach out to kids who are that age when I was struggling, because you do feel alone, especially when you're a female. It's, you have so many things you're trying to accomplish, and you want to be popular, you want to be smart, you want to be driven to make the right choices. But when you have something like this going on in the background, it's very noisy in your mind.
Yeah.
And I really felt like if someone or many know that this was real and is real, and it's not just real for me, it's real for so many more people, and people are afraid to share because I didn't want anyone to know. So how many more out there don't want someone to know?
Right.
And this break this stigma is so important, and we're getting closer and closer with sharing this, and that it's not our fault. It's not, whether you're the person afflicted or whether you're the child of someone inflicted.
Yeah.
You need to be okay to share. No different if you had a heart problem or you had diabetes. Why is it okay to tell people you have those issues, but it's not okay to say this? And as a child or a teenager, it's not your fault. And I just really felt that I want to connect with young people. Through the book was a good opportunity because I was able to go into schools and talk about it and have kids ask me questions about writing, and also ask me questions about mental illness.
That's amazing. And that is what you are up to now, is you really want to reach kids. And that's why I titled this interview, Helping Kids of Mentally Ill Parents, because we get it, that it is hard to do this, to navigate this in a vacuum and try to manage everything we're feeling and care for our loved one. So tell us about what you're up to and how you want to reach more kids.
Well, I'm working with people who are in the process of developing a program intended to create an outreach and support system aimed at minor children who live in households with single parents suffering with mental illness. And it's not that I'm opposed to talking with anyone who is in a double family, two parent.
Yeah.
But I feel that that's something I have more of an ability to it's such a narrow area, and they're the ones with no support.
Right.
And I want to working with someone who we're trying to develop this program to reach out to them. And statistically, we've done a lot of research, and we have found out that there's a lot that no one knows about. And if I could go into school and talk and have a student feel safe, to know that there's someone they can tell, and whether it's sending me a letters and then me finding who I can give them to help form some kind of an organization that could speak to children like this, because if I had that, I think I would have accomplished more quicker in my life. But this is the road that God gave me to take, and I'm fine with that. But if I can help someone get to where they need to get faster and more comfortably, that's what it's all about for me. I had two opportunities in my life where I felt cared for, and outside of, the whatever my mother could give me. I don't blame her. It's not her fault.
Mhm.
But I had the ladies at church, and then I had a young woman in a church summer camp for the underprivileged. I guess the church, I think they told someone, and they sent my mother a letter. Do I want to go away to camp for 2 weeks?
Nice.
And I said, yeah. We had no air
Mhm.
conditioning. I lived on the third floor, no pool. No one wanted to really invite us over because we were like the eyesore
Yeah.
of the neighborhood. And I said, yeah, I'll go. And then when I got there, I was scared. I was really scared. It was much different than where I'd been brought up. And even though I was alone, and my brother and sister relied on me, I felt loneliness, but I was not scared. When
Mm.
I went to this camp, I was scared. And whether there was a reason, there really was no reason to be. I just was.
Yeah.
And one of the counselors reached out to me. She saw it, and she just took me under her wing, and she became a pen pal. And I never saw her again, and she wrote to me, and I wrote her back diligently at least every other week until I moved out of that little town.
Mhm.
And that just really helped. It
Yeah.
helped me to know that there was someone on the other end who was not judging me,
Right.
who was just listening to me, and if I said something that raised a red flag, she redirected me in a very kind, loving way. And if I can do that anytime for someone, I wanna take that opportunity to do it as well.
That's exactly why we're here. I
Mm.
believe, and all of those challenges, I think, shape us and like light a fire within us to want to do more, because there's nothing worse than feeling so alone, and like you're the only one who's experienced something. I think, just by telling your story, you create a relatedness with someone else, a young person who's like, wow, it's not just me living this life by myself. Like, someone gets it and they get how hard it is. um, I love that. And I do believe that, everything happens the way it's supposed to, and we land doing something that is more meaningful because of it. So yeah, I give you so much credit. It's amazing what you're up to, and I love it, and I want to support you any way I can.
Oh, thank you. I just, I am looking for opportunities, and I definitely want to talk to you outside and learn about CASA, because it's still something that's on my radar. And now that I have more availability in my time schedule, it might be something that maybe now's the time, or maybe I'll just be able to start creating an opportunity to go to schools and talk about this. And even if the program isn't ready yet, just to start bringing awareness to the fact that every school has some students in there that were just like me.
Mhm.
And if I can help someone see that, and without passing judgment, it'll help the other students too, because
Totally.
everybody has a story.
Yep.
The bullying and that is so, we talk about that so much, and maybe the bullier is that me, or
Yeah.
maybe the bullier is bullying someone like me.
Yeah.
But when people understand what's going on that is behind someone's closed doors,
Yep.
without them telling them, maybe just me, an outsider who's been through it, who's grown now and is not afraid to share that, it might just help with empathy and compassion
Yeah.
for young people. And if I could just do that right now, as I start and embark on this next adventure in my life to make a difference,
Yeah.
that's my next step. I hope. Mm.
It's like the I guess for us kids when we were little, it was like, the secret that you kept, you
Mhm.
protected. You didn't want anyone to know. So at whatever expense, you concealed it because there was such shame and embarrassment. And that was fed by a stigma that
Mhm.
mental illness was something to be ashamed of and nothing to be spoken about. And I'll never forget when I had the courage to speak at one of my youth retreats. I was invited to give a talk at a youth retreat. And my message was exactly what you said. You do not know what anyone is dealing with at home.
Yep.
Just be nice, because you have no clue what they're going home to. And as someone and you and I both, two individuals that had to carry that secret and carry that burden, you know, it meant everything when someone was randomly just nice to me and just sweet to me. It made it so much more, pleasant to be around people when someone was just nice to me, because of all of that I had on my shoulders and going on in my head, and the worry of my mom. Is she okay? What am I going home after school? Is she going to be sick? Is she going to be, taken away to the hospital? There's just so much going on. And I love that you simply want to get into schools and remind children of the empathy and compassion, and create a relatedness for the kids that are living that secret, who know their mother is sick or their father is sick, and they don't dare talk about it. So I love that, because that's how we break stigma within, the youngest generation,
Yeah, I mean, the earlier they hear this, the better chance you have of helping them.
Yeah.
And that's really all I can think to do at this point. And I look forward to it. I really do. And I want to help make a change. I really do. I know you and me and other people like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use what the difficulties you've gone through life to help make changes for the next generation, then it was for nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm okay now. I mean, yeah, I have moments where I don't feel okay. I know that I am. I know I'll come out of it because I have support now. Yeah. I have great kids, and I have a sister, and I have an aunt, and I have lots of good friends, and I'm so grateful. But if there's kids right now that don't have any of that, and if I don't let them know that someone me was just like them, I'm not doing any services. I mean, isn't that what life is about?
Yeah.
Paying it forward, making lemonade out of lemons. I mean, whatever. It's all those cliches. I just believe they're there for a purpose, and I want to be purposeful in everything that I do. I don't want to waste my life just shopping, because really, I'm only working part-time now anyway, so I can't shop much anymore anyway. I need to feel that I am making a difference, and I look forward to having more opportunities to do that.
Amen, Wendy. You're amazing. I love it. I'm having on Stefania from Italy. She's going to come on my show, I think either next week or the week after. I can't remember. But she created in Italy a NGO, a nonprofit for children of mentally ill parents in Italy.
Joel found that. I got to look. Oh, you're going to be talking with her?
Yes, I've been friends with her for quite some time, and I've been watching her work. And there are even larger obstacles in Italy than there are here in the U.S. The amount of dollars that go to mental health in Italy is just ludicrous. But yeah, she's coming on my show to talk about the work that she's doing and why it's so important, just like you, to help our young people just navigate what life is like, loving someone with a mental illness. It's not easy. It shapes you. So I can't wait to have her on. I think the three of us could move mountains together. So we'll definitely have to stay connected for sure.
Oh, for sure. I can't wait to see this and, learn more about her. Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to share with us? Any additional words of wisdom, anything that you're up to that you want to share with us? I put your website at the bottom and the ticker there, Wendy. So anyone who wants to look you up or follow you, they can just go to your website. But is there anything you want to share?
I guess I'm just going to reiterate what I said. I just feel like we need to be examples and meet children where they are, and just show them kindness without judgment. And maybe we can give them the opportunity that we didn't have at a much younger age, so they know that there is life that is as close to normal as can be for them, and they can cling to that knowledge and hope about their own futures if they get to see somebody like us who have turned out okay.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I can think to sum it up.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what I say, right? Like when I released my book, I had a young girl write me a letter and said those very words, that like, I have hope. My mom is sick, but if you're okay, I'm going to be okay.
And that's it. Yeah. I mean, you have to overcome your obstacles. When you're in that moment, it's okay to cry and it's okay to pound your fists, but you have to get back up. You just have to. And anyone who can encourage you, and many have encouraged me, that's builds who we become. And
Right.
I am who I am, as Popeye says.
Wendy, thank you so much for spending an hour with me this afternoon, and sharing your story and telling us all about what you're up to and for the great work you're doing in the world. I am so blessed to know you and grateful for your time.
Oh, thank you. And I'm blessed to know you, and I look forward to continuing a relationship. I really do.
Amazing. All right, my dear. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Michelle.